experience. We've had an amazing life already. And we get pain. We get pain down the arm and the legs. The first is the yamas, second is the niyamas.
Yep.
So the yamas and niyamas,
Well, where did you find yoga fitting into your daily life? Because you've got an executive lifestyle. So welcome back to Sessions from the Edge, where I talk to 3 different types of people as part of the discussions that I have around chronic illness and what it's like to live the journey of life in a simple sense. Today, I'm here with a functional health practitioner. So I talk to 3 different types of people each month. They could be a patient, they could be a carer, or they could be a functional health practitioner. And Dr. David Mills, Sensei Dr. David Mills, is exactly that kind of person. So David, just let's jump to the point of the sensei joke, which is just a little bit of fun. Why are you a sensei?
I'm a martial arts instructor.
Uh-huh.
So as a black belt in jiu-jitsu, we call our martial arts instructor sensei. So my correct, if I want to use the acronyms appropriately, it's Dr. David Mills Sensei. The sensei goes after the name.
Oh, there you go. And the bit at the front, what's the doctor for? What did you do a PhD?
So it's not a medical doctor, it's a doctor of philosophy. So that was done in renewable energy, so solar energy, wind energy, etc. That's my PhD done 26 years ago now. 26 years ago.
And that's in environment, that's in sustainability. Yes. So you work for the Department of
Environment, Science, Tourism, Innovation.
There you go, which is in the state of Queensland in Australia. But that's not always here.
Not at all.
So we're here in this beautiful surrounding up in the Himalayas, or in the northeastern part of India. And we're on a yoga and meditation retreat for a couple of weeks. And David and his wife are actually the yogis. So in this case, he's not even a sensei to me. He's a yogi. He's a yoga instructor. And given the philosophy background, I thought today we'd talk about philosophy. So first, David, could you tell us how you got into yoga and why?
Yeah. Well, my journey started as a martial artist, going back for over 40 years ago. And I did a range of other things in addition to martial arts, cross-training.
Yeah.
Yoga was just one of those many things I did in for cross-training. And one day I got this a Groupon voucher for unlimited yoga for 3 months. And so I went every day for 3 months because that's the type of person I am where I sort of get stuck into it.
Yeah.
And at the end of that 3 months, I thought, I'm feeling really good inside. I wasn't any more flexible. I just felt good inside. So I signed up. I bought a year subscription, so unlimited yoga for a year. And I went every day for a year, which I think set a record at the yoga school I was going to. Nobody else had ever done that before.
As you would. I've been doing yoga with David now for about 18 months, 2 years, and he's right into it.
Yeah. So then after that, I went to the next level, which is teacher training. The yoga school I was at, they divide the teacher training into 2 halves. The first half is deepening your understanding of yoga. And the second half is where you learn how to teach. And so I just did the first half because I've never been interested in being a yoga teacher. So I did the first half, deepened my understanding of yoga. Fantastic. Loved it. Then I met my wife, Sarah. And then every now and then, Sarah would need me to stand in for her to take a class. So I thought I'd better become a fully qualified yoga teacher. So I went and did another teacher training course. So the first one was 100 hours. So the standard teacher training course 200 hours.
Yep.
I did another course at 250 hours teacher training, so a bit more than what the basic level is. Did that. And I've enjoyed that so much, I've done a third teacher training, which went for 300 hours. So 2 in Australia and then 1 in India. So yes, a lot of teacher training because I just love learning.
Yeah.
You know? So anyone who's got a PhD, they have to enjoy learning.
Totally.
So I love learning. I love finding out more. And the yoga philosophy, there's so much depth to it. So I really enjoyed delving into that.
Yeah. So you did the third one in India.
Yes.
And that's actually the stimulus that sort of motivated us to come here this year. Because last year we went to Karnashanti Vanam which is near the city of Hyderabad in central India. And David said, oh, you know what? It'd be nice to go up to Rishikesh where the Beatles had their ashram and so on. And then we could go up into the hills to the ashram that Mindfulness has up in the Himalayas. And here we are a year later. So tell us a bit about your actual trip, or the education that you got in Rishikesh.
Yoga in India, the teacher training in India is somewhat different to Australia and other Western places. Its weakness is that it doesn't really teach you how to teach very well, but I'd already got that from Australia.
Yeah.
Its strength is a philosophy. You get more philosophy in India, and it was more intense that way. So I really enjoyed that. And Rishikesh is a special place for yoga teaching. Rishikesh is thought of as the spiritual home of yoga. And there is a lot of teacher training. There's a lot of yogis go to Rishikesh. Very special. And I have to admit that I did feel that. So yoga is so much more than just bending and stretching. The average person on the streets doesn't know about yoga, thinks that you get into all this, what's called asana. So all the stretches, all the twists, all the postures you go into.
Yeah.
That's not what yoga's about at all, right?
So what David's saying is that there's actually, yoga is a much, much bigger body of knowledge and spirituality than just the asanas or the yoga poses. So for those of us who do yoga in Western countries and in modern society, we think of it as yoga as being like Pilates or stretching and so on, which is actually just the tip of the iceberg. So yeah.
So that part of yoga has only been developed in the last few hundred years, yeah? So originally, the original yoga is more a philosophical thing. We go to the Bhagavad Gita. That's one of the key texts. Patanjali's yoga. They're the two key texts for yoga. And that's all about your mind. It's about your attitude. It's about how you live in the world. Right? But to get in that form of yoga is also often called Raja Yoga. And Raja Yoga is about your mind. And it does involve a lot of meditation. And the thought was that to be able to meditate properly, you need to first prepare your body. So you need to purify your body. You need to be able to sit for long periods of time in meditation. So that led to the development of Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga combined the postures that we see today with the mind aspects of it. And then as it's been developed in the West, there's been more and more and more postures added to it.
Yeah.
So in the last few hundred years, there's been a lot more of the postural side of things and the breathing side of things added to it. And that's strengthened the body, which purifies, prepares yourself for the journey that you go on as an internal.
And you talk about breathing. We all breathe every day of the week, every minute of the day. It's one thing we can't turn off. It never stops until we're dead. But with yogic breathing, what are you talking about there?
Okay. Every exercise you do, every asana, you need to focus on your breath as much, if not more so, than your actual posture. And you want to slow down the breath. Yeah? And I've also looked into the science behind this. There's a beautiful book that everybody should read called The Science of Yoga. And it does go into a lot of this, what's behind it, what underpins this. And so what makes yoga different to the other exercise systems is the breathing that goes behind it. By slowing down your breath, you tend to activate the parasympathetic nervous system more. By activating the parasympathetic nervous system, what that is doing is calming the body down. It's sending more of your blood away from the muscles into the internal organs. So your body tends to, so this is a generalization, tends to predominantly act in either sympathetic or parasympathetic mode, your autonomous nervous system. Yeah. The sympathetic mode, more of the blood goes to your muscles. That prepares you to be able to get up and do things. So if we go back through evolution, the person who was more able to suddenly get up and run away when that tiger came or whatever would survive. So from an evolutionary perspective, we've adapted to be, during our normal waking hours, to be more in the sympathetic mode. And then when we go to sleep at night, we calm down, we can revert back to parasympathetic mode. And that's where the blood goes more to your internal organs. And so you get that rest and digest function.
Right.
So you've got fight and flight for your sympathetic mode.
Which is what we do most of the day.
Yes. And then parasympathetic mode is rest and digest. But that improves your health. Yeah. So that's when your body's repairing itself, improving itself. So with yoga, you slow down your breathing, you focus on your breathing while you're doing the asana. And what that's doing is you're training your body. So the body's under stress during the postures, but while under stress, you're moving away from that stressful situation where you're activating parasympathetic mode more. So you're learning how to be more rest and digest, how to be healthier on the inside. And that moves on to outside. So you walk outside of your yoga hall, you finish your postures, but that carries through with you in day to day. So you can be more relaxed, you can be less impacted by stressful situations. So you're essentially reducing stress throughout the day. It's making you a healthier person.
And how does yoga fit into, say, people with chronic conditions? So with chronic conditions, you've already got that overlay of having to be careful about certain things. I mean, the high altitudes, blood pressure, which is my concern, is a thing. But how could somebody overlay yoga, and how could it benefit somebody with a chronic condition?
Because of that rest and digest function, because you are calming everything out, you're removing stress. When you're sick, when you've got cancer, whatever, you can't help but be impacted by that. Mentally impacted by it, physiologically impacted by that. You've got that more stressful situation. You need to be able to calm down the body. Yoga helps do that. So yes, you've got the physical benefits of yoga where you get blood flowing through, you're improving the health of your body from a physical perspective, but you also at the same time improving it from an internal perspective. You've got the mental perspective where you're calming down the mind, but you've got the organs as well. So all of that is helping. So no matter what that chronic condition is, if you've got some sort of issue which is impacting your health, yoga will help.
Yeah, right. And so that's sort of the physical sides of yoga and so forth. What about the philosophical sides? How would that help somebody with a chronic condition? Because the philosophical sides, like there's, for those of you who are not familiar, David mentioned before the and I pronounce it incorrectly, the Patanjalis. Is that
Patanjali.
right? Patanjalis.
Patanjali's Yoga Sutras.
Yeah, and that was a guy, wasn't it? That was a guru. Is it in the beginning?
Generally thought to. We don't know who Patanjali was.
Right.
Okay. It may have been multiple authors.
Right.
It may have been one author.
Like Homer, for instance.
Yeah. But historically, yoga was done by men.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's a sort of Western culture sort of changed things. So it's more modern times women have become more into yoga. But historically, it was the male, the ascetic, who'd run up in the mountains and do their sort of yoga thing.
Yeah.
So Patanjali, and men were sort of carried on all these traditions. So Patanjali is thought to be a man, thought to be one person, but may have been multiple. We don't know.
Multiple, yeah.
Patanjali. So this all started before there was written text.
Yeah.
And so people had to remember things. So a sutra means thread. But a sutra is trying to condense this knowledge into the smallest amount of words possible.
Yep.
So the Yoga Sutras go through and have small verses, a lot of different verses, that go through and describe aspects of our behaviour, how we should act, about overcoming things that are wrong with us and trying to improve our lives.
And there's 8 limbs of yoga. So, the asanas, which is the movements, the poses, they're just one of those 8 limbs. And the second
That's
one,
correct.
the third one.
No. The first is the yamas, second is niyamas.
Yep.
So the yamas and niyamas, to think about, they're sort of like 10 commandments.
Yep.
Yeah? So they're the do's and the don'ts of yoga. That's the first 2 limbs, yeah? So then the third limb is asana. Asana is the physical postures. And the fourth limb is pranayama. Pranayama is the breathing. Then the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, they get more into the meditative state. A sort of pratyahara is sort of not being impacted by the outside internal. So being able to just not be impacted by what's going on outside. Then you go into the meditative state. There's the one single focus, the ongoing focus of meditation. And finally reach your samadhi, your sort of blissful sort of state. But that's the 8 limbs of yoga.
Yeah, and that's it. Through each of those 8 limbs, you're trying to raise yourself up to a different level of consciousness, isn't it? It's like a sort of a sense of essence of being.
I wouldn't quite put it that way. No, I wouldn't say it like that. While the 8 limbs can be looked at in order, they can also be done concurrently all at the same time.
Yeah, right.
And they'll work together that way. Yeah. So we think about the postures that we want to do. So the very first, the yamas and niyamas, the very first yama is ahimsa. Yeah. People may have heard of that. Ahimsa is non-violence, not to do violence. When we're doing our postures, we don't want to do violence in our postures.
Yeah, we don't want to hurt ourselves.
So I came to yoga with a martial arts background. we have this sort of attitude, go hard or go home. Yeah. Not the right way to do yoga at all. You want to relax into your postures. You don't want to go hard in your postures. You want to relax in. So ahimsa, don't do violence. Yeah, don't go too hard. Don't hurt yourself in doing the postures. Yeah. So that sort of thing. So all the yamas and yamas that do as a philosophy that works with the postures themselves. The breathing works with the postures. You should be doing all that at the same time.
Yeah.
So it all goes together, and you'll find that the final four limbs of Ashtanga Vinyasa, of Ashtanga Yoga, those final four limbs will just come as a result of doing it. It all comes together. So you don't need to be thinking, I've got to do number one, then I've got to do number two, then I've got to do number three. No. It'll just all happen concurrently.
So taking that as sort of a very quick overview of some of the philosophy of yoga and where the asanas, the poses, fit into the whole yoga ecosystem, if you like, as a philosophy. How would somebody then take that knowledge and align themselves in their day-to-day life, really? And with chronic conditions, you go through ebbs and flows just as you do in any situation. And how do people then use those in their daily lives?
Okay. They will happen naturally without you having to try to wake awake. So yoga is not about trying to force and make things happen. It will happen naturally. So when you're doing the asanas, you're making your body healthier. Yeah. When you're doing the pranayama, so the breathing exercises go with the postures, that's all making the body healthier just naturally. The philosophical side of things, that will help you too in your daily life. Yeah. So some of the philosophy of yoga is that we don't need to focus on this end goal. We don't need to be driven to achieve something. We need to just accept things as they are. Yeah. And if we can find acceptance in as they are, then that's going to make life easier for us. Yeah. If you're constantly trying to achieve the next thing, you're always trying to achieve something, you're never going to feel satisfied with where you're at. If you find acceptance with everything and you're less bothered by things, it doesn't matter that your neighbour's got a better car or a better house or whatever. You find happiness with what you've got yourself. Yeah? You will find by being happier, that's going to improve your health. Happiness and health, they go together.
And how did you find yoga fitting into your daily life? Because you've got an executive lifestyle, as an academic in a government department, and then you've got family, and then you've got yoga and so on. How did you find? Was there anywhere where it created a what I call a dynamic harmony, this sort of sense of because balance is utopia.
Okay, little story. When I first met my wife Sarah, so we met through yoga, and at the time that we met, my kids had grown up and left home, and I was practicing yoga every day. Sarah still had kids, so she wasn't practicing the asana, the physical posture side of it. We'd meet together, we'd come together, and we'd do a bit of practice together. And I pointed out, I said to Sarah how, I'm practicing yoga every day, and she's not. She pointed out that I was wrong. She's practicing yoga every day as well. You don't have to be doing physical postures to be practicing yoga. Yeah. It's that mind, that attitude that's important to yoga as well. Yeah. So that calming side of things, that's all yoga. Yoga is...
So we were talking about aligning and how you align yoga and that whole sort of the Patanjalis and all that sort of thing together.
Patanjali.
I'm so hopeless with that, aren't I? And you're sort of talking about how you and Sarah.
Yes. So Sarah pointed out that she practices yoga every day. So yoga is more than just doing that physical practice. So yoga doesn't have to be limited to that 1 hour that you're spending in a yoga school during your practice. Yoga can be that attitude towards things, seeing beauty in the world, just going out and just sort of stopping and looking at this beautiful sight we've got here, or just stepping outside your front door and noticing what's there, walking down the street and seeing a beautiful smile on someone's face. That's yoga. It's a way of looking at the world that is going beyond just the day-to-day hassle that we get caught up in. It's being able to get outside of that day-to-day problems that we deal with.
And so if somebody, so In terms of managing chronic conditions, there's two sides of the coin. There's the person with the condition and the person who's caring for the person with the condition. So if you're over 40 anywhere in the world, the statistics tell us, and statistics are one thing, they're not necessarily the total story, but
they're
generalisation that over 40, 50% of the world has at least one chronic condition, if not more. In my case, I've got a thing called comorbidity, which is more than one. But so that makes me the person with the condition, and my wife the carer for the condition of the person. So if we think of both sides of those coins, how could, for instance, what's one of the 8 limbs that somebody could apply if they were the carer of a person with a chronic condition to themselves, because they're the ones they forget about themselves. And
okay. Now I need to sort of step back. The 8 limbs are only one part of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So do not get caught up in thinking that the 8 limbs define what yoga is.
No.
Yoga is so much more than what's just... The 8 limbs can help explain the yoga philosophy, but there's more to it than that, So how can a carer apply the philosophy or the basis of yoga to the person they're caring for? Well, first of all, understanding. So the philosophy of yoga is one of acceptance, as I said before. So you're accepting the position that you're in, where you're at, so you understand where they're at. It's yoga. The philosophy of yoga is also one of seeing us all being connected. We have what's called the individual soul, so the jivatma, the individual soul, the universal soul. We're all connected through our souls. So feeling that connection with the person that they're caring for. So feeling that's empathizing with them. The more you have empathy with somebody, the more they're going to respond to that, the more you're going to be able to feel what they need. So I think it's going to make for a better relationship as you're caring for that person.
And what about them themselves? Because I interviewed a doctor of philosophy in the US recently, Dr. Donna Blevins, and she focuses on the impact of chronic illness on carers, because she's both the person with a chronic illness, but also she's caring for her husband in her instance. And so if you're over 70 and you're a carer for somebody with a chronic condition, you're more likely to die first than the person with the condition, because you forget about yourself. So how would you apply yoga to yourself on a daily basis so that you are protecting yourself?
You have to be able to care for yourself to be able to care for others.
That's right.
So everything that we do has to start with yourself. Applying that concept of our hymns, as we said before, that non-violence, but all the other yamas and niyamas, they start with yourself. So you need to be able to look after yourself to be able to look after somebody else. Yoga is thinking beyond yourself, so thinking of the whole universe of that connection. But it's also bringing it back to yourself too. And that's what I'll often, or every now and then, I'll finish a yoga class where I'll go through a loving kindness meditation. And when I do the loving kindness meditation, what I do is I sort of gradually expand our circle of where our love is. The love for your mother, your wife, your daughter, etc. And to go beyond and expand it to the whole universe and then bring it back to yourself. So you've got to apply that all to yourself as well as to the person you're caring for. Feeling that love, that circular process.
And once you've aligned yourself with the condition and life, and you've applied yoga for both awareness and also for self-preservation, how do you then take yoga to a higher level and start thriving in life and start sort of going past your condition or past your current resistance, so to speak?
I think what happens is that you realise that you already are thriving. That you may have that condition, but we have lived such wonderful lives already. We have so much that we've already attained, so much that we've already experienced. We've had an amazing life already. And if you can start seeing that within yourself, then that's going to help deal with that condition, because you're not focusing on, I've got this problem. You focus on a problem and it doesn't go away.
That's right.
It just gets worse.
You dwell.
If you get distracted, and you realise that with kids, the kids have got a sore, you get to distract them from something, that sore sort of just goes away. Same with yourself. This can be really hard to distract yourself from a chronic condition. But if you can then go beyond that, if you can find that ability to see within yourself, to see the beautiful life that you've already lived, see the beauty around you, to be able to absorb all that, to me, I think that's going to help you distract you from the chronic condition, and thereby make it for a better life.
And take your life, for example. How have you sort of evolved as a person, as a being, from when you were just doing martial arts or had just finished your PhD or whatever the case may be, to where you are now, and with your level of knowledge and also experience?
I don't know that evolved would be the right word for it. You'd really have to ask my wife that.
Okay. I might do that. I'll be interviewing her later.
Yes, you can ask Sarah, because I don't think it's fair to ask myself about what I think of what I achieved. Because and so as an Aussie, we don't do that sort of thing.
No, that's right. Aussie male. Okay, so let me reframe it then. How has your perspective on life changed? Think back to before when you didn't have any perspective of yoga.
I suppose in a way I might be less driven to have to achieve stuff. So if I look back at my life beforehand, the black belt, you don't get a black belt without practicing a lot and really dedication. PhD, you don't get a PhD without really working hard to achieve that. So I've done all that sort of stuff. I don't need to achieve anymore. So there's that acceptance that, yes, I've done a lot. And people don't need to get their black belts or their PhD or whatever. If you can look back and accept the life for what you've done. So for me, it's sort of that acceptance that I've done everything that I need to do. I don't need to do anything more. Anything else that comes along is just icing on the cake. Fantastic. By doing that, it means that I'm happy with where I'm at. I don't need to seek happiness in something that I haven't already attained.
Yeah, that's a very, very insightful perspective. What I'd like to do now, I'd like to go away from conversation and just do a bit of yoga, just one short. It can be an asana, it can be a breathing, it can be anything.
We were talking about people who don't practice yoga all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I say is that as we age, a big problem, like with our physical body, a big problem with as we age is that we don't get blood flow to the spine. So there are discs between each of the vertebrae in the spine. Those discs not getting the blood, don't get nourished, and so they start to shrink. And then you get the nerves that go out between the vertebrae, and because of the shrinkage of the disc, they get squashed. And we get pain. We get pain down the arm, in the legs, whatever, So if we can get blood flow back through to the spine, then that can delay that aging. So there's a simple asana called cat-cow, which can help sort of go. So very simple. Anybody can do it. Even if you've got a chronic condition, you can do it, So I'm talking about physical body. We can talk about that pranayama, and we can talk about other things as well, So cat-cow. And if you want me to demonstrate,
let's do that. That's great.
So here we are in the dining room of
So we come to kneel.
the ashram.
Hands on his shoulders, knees underneath hips. You inhale, you lower the belly. You exhale, you round your back. Inhale, lower your belly. Exhale, round your back. That's cat-cow. That simple exercise anybody can do is getting the blood flowing back to the vertebrae. I mean, we do other things where we're twisting, we're doing all sorts of stuff, which is fantastic. Do that as well. But start with the cat-cow. Integrate that into every yoga practice. That's for the physical side of things. Then we're talking about the breathing side. So I said before that yoga is more than just that movement. It's the breathing. Notice when I did the cat-cow, I'd say inhale, do this, exhale, do that. So we're moving with the breath. Think about your breath in whatever you're doing, whenever you're doing something, Can we slow it down? Okay. I'm also a first aid attendant at work, and we had every now and then we have a drill where everybody has to evacuate. And there's certain people that can't be evacuated because of their health conditions. So they're allowed to stay on the floor.
Right.
And I have to stay with them.
Yeah.
And in the event of a real fire, the fires will come in, they'll take them away. But because we're doing this first aid, they stay there. The siren's going on and off all the time, constantly going. We had a lady who was so stressed out because the siren going, yeah? So what I did with her was going to doing alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana, yeah?
Uh-huh.
So a simple exercise people with chronic conditions can do that can calm them down if they're getting stressed is Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing. We can do that here.
Yes, let's do it.
So take 2 fingers, and I'm going to remove my glasses here. 2 fingers go to the center between your eyebrows, thumb outside of one nostril, fingers bent, so ring finger outside the other nostril. Yeah. You breathe in through both nostrils to start with, and then out. And with your thumb, you close your right nostril, and you breathe in through your left. Then you close your left with your ring finger, open your thumb and right nostril, breathe out through the right side. Breathe in through the right. With your thumb, you close your right nostril, ring finger open left nostril, breathe out through left. Breathe in through left. With your ring finger, close the left, with your thumb open right, breathe out through right. Breathe in through right. With your thumb, close your right nostril, ring finger open left, breathe out through left. And we'll stop at that point. Yep. Do that at the pace of your breath, slowing down, but don't go so slow that you feel out of breath. Do that at the pace of your breath. I use this in this lady, I called her Nadi Shodhana. She calmed down. She wasn't affected by those signs that were driving her crazy.
Oh, you feel it straight away. You just mellow.
Yeah. It's a calming breath. So that's a simple breathing exercise that we can do for people with chronic conditions.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, Dr. David Mills, it's been a fantastic session in 2 parts with you this afternoon, and thank you for suggesting that we come up here to this fantastic Himalayan view.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, it's just magic. Every morning you wake up and there's just snow-capped peaks from one side of the horizon to the other, with all these valleys in between, and
we
the birds.
are so blessed.
Oh, incredibly.
Grateful to be able to have this.
Yeah. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Paul.
And we'll carry on for the rest of the week.
Okay.
See ya. Bye.